Hi and welcome. This is our first Manifestation Monday with Marcy program in 2023. This is, you might say, our inaugural program. And so, of course, you have to know how important this is. And if you haven't been able to join me live or haven't been able to watch the initial recording that I shared with you last week, you must take a moment to just close your eyes for a second and just take a nice deep breath in and release it out. And take another one in and start to notice that as you do this in a very mindful way, how your body just begins to respond by getting softer and softer. And so as you release this breath out, you may be already feeling that. But certainly with a third breath and your intention to allow it to soften you, you will feel that. Now, you may be asking, why are we starting our session out with that? Well, the one thing that I know is that each of us, regardless of, where you are in this moment, you have had either a day full or an evening full already of lots of different thoughts and conversations and circumstances and situations, and all of these things sort of accumulate, not just in your mind, but also on a cellular level. And so when we are diving into this manifestation mastery that we are looking for, the first thing that we must remember is that we are body, mind, and spirit. And there is no separation between those aspects of us. So it means that we must integrate and acknowledge all of those aspects of ourselves if we are hoping for, as I said, mastery of manifestation that has the capability, the possibilities of bringing to life everything that we want to experience. So we'll be beginning our programs exactly like that, always with the intention to soften our body, to soften our mind, and to soften our breath. Just letting go of everything that we've experienced up until this moment of now coming together again. So as you're breathing easier, softer, you may notice also that you're sitting in your chair, or if you're lying on the ground or on the sofa, or perhaps driving in your car, that your physical stance has shifted as well. I know that mine has, even just in those short few seconds of bringing the breath in, bringing the attention in, bringing the mind to meet the body. I can feel that there's a space now for my spirit, my higher self, to come forward. And this, of course, is exactly what we want. Because your higher self is the part of you that already knows that you've got this. You are a manifesting genius. You are a creator of this universe. So there's no question that you have the capability of taking your manifestations to a whole new level. And speaking of a whole new level, I want you to know that these sessions that we're going to have are going to be completely different than anything you've ever experienced before. This is information that I typically share only with my private clients, my one-on-one clients, and they pay a lot of money to work with me. And I've decided that this year, 2023, we have got to come back into alignment with our truth. And the truth is that, number one, you are never a victim. Really important. Number two, you're never a victim because you have the ability to make choices based on what it is that you want to experience. So if you find yourself sliding into this victimhood energy or mindset, you, as this creative genius that you are, that has the capacity to create whatever you want, must be called forward. And you have to take your seat in the throne that's been created for you. Why else is it different? Well, because I've been teaching this for so many years, way before The Secret even came out, way before it was this popular theme that was shared with teachers and students around the world. These principles are principles that I had actually put to work consciously in my own mind and in my own life for so many years. The other thing that makes this so different is that I've been in this work of helping people to heal their hearts for over 50 years professionally. What that means is that even before I started to teach manifestation and a conscious alchemy, I was already living the principles, practicing the principles of universal laws, spiritual laws that opened up worlds to me that my colleagues did not have. They didn't have the opportunities for. And in fact, when I look back at my professional career, as well as my personal life, I can see how different my life was from others. And I'm sure that you can say that too. Your life has been so different. But what's unique about mine is that I had this awareness very early on with how powerful I was. And it started actually when I began to notice how I sabotaged myself. And so today we're going to be talking about some preparation that is really important before we embark upon this in a very serious way. And I hope that you're very serious. If you think that you're going to spend this time with me and I'm just going to lay out this formula and say, do this, do this, do that, then you're in the wrong place. You can get that anywhere. What I want to share with you is how all of these pieces, all these different aspects of you are brought into this process. And of course, ultimately, what you can do to shift that. So, will I share a formula with you? I will. And one of those first steps in the sharing of that formula is to understand that manifestation does have a formula. But it's not the way you think it is. It's not step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. It doesn't work like that. It is not a linear journey. It is a journey where you become masterful at being aware, consciously aware of the energies that are flowing through you and whether or not they have the potential to create what you want to experience. That's a whole different story, isn't it? Yes, it is. So we begin today by really beginning to understand this concept of preparation. Now, just as I said to you a moment ago that the formulation of manifestation is not linear, neither is this. The preparation is not linear. However, what will open this treasure chest for you is developing a conscious awareness, number one, of energy, number two, of the potential of energy frequencies, number three, how they're playing out in your life, and you have evidence of them all the time, everywhere. So you won't have to search far in order to get the information that you need. And then also, of course, how it all comes together. And that we will explore more and will be more clear, made clear for you in the workshops every month. So let's talk about this preparation. It begins actually, as I said earlier, with you being able to accept that you are this divine being that has the ability to create anything that you want. This very often is challenging for people because it means that you have to accept that you are a direct extension of the God consciousness, which is the ultimate creator. It means that you have to accept that you have been created in exactly that same image and given those same abilities. I know it's a lot for you to take in. I know that your head right now is saying to you, oh yeah, right, sure. How can that be possible? Well, here's the deal. The deal is that if it's up to the ego, you'll never accept it. And so if you're trying to make sense of this in your mind, it won't happen. The ego won't allow it. So I want you to remember right off the beginning is that the ego's worst nightmare is that you remember who you are, that you actually are this incredible creative genius. And also that we need also only to look at your life to see the evidence of that. So we're going to be looking a lot at the contrast between what the ego wants you to see and what your higher self is saying, just follow me. I'm going to take you to wherever you want to go. So it also means we need to be able to discern the voices that we are hearing. And most importantly, again, discerning this energy, because the energy has a language all of its own, and it's constantly speaking to us. So what gets in our way then? Why are we not aware of all of this taking place on a daily basis? What is really preventing us? Well, what prevents us, as I said just a moment ago, is that there is this constant nagging voice from the ego that is meant to distract you. Doesn't want you to remember that you actually can do this. So that's number one. Number two, you have had a whole lifetime of experiences already that have left imprints upon you. And those imprints are something that the ego actually uses against you. It'll say something like, oh, remember that? Remember when you tried that last time? You saw what a disaster it was. those imprints are something that you actually can retrieve, sometimes quite easily, almost too easily, right? Because you yourself may remember how you got burned or hurt, or how you suffered because you fell short of what it was you wanted to experience. But the other aspect is that you also have the energy of the conditions and programs that you've received since childhood, and some before you even were embodied as you are now. And those are, well, let's say they're very insidious because you don't recognize them. They have taken control over your thought process, your perceptions, your behaviors, the actions that you're willing to take. And so those really are the most insidious, and meaning they can hurt you the most because you don't know that they've been activated. And of course, that the ego is using them against you, one of its favorites. And because it's a pattern, something that you've been conditioned to react to rather than respond to, it also means that it creates repetitive behavior, repetitive patterns that keep you separate from who you really are. Excuse me. So let's talk about those for a second. What happens when you have either the memories or the subconscious memories? They create expectations. And very often the expectations that they create are of a completely different vibrational frequency. The energy is of a completely different frequency than the frequency of whatever it is that you're trying to create. So guess what? The two of them cannot meet. They're going in opposite directions. So if you are not expecting to see something different than what you've seen in the past, what are the chances that you'll actually see something different, that you will get a different result? Very slim. We could even maybe say slim to none. So what we have to do then, again, points in the direction of becoming more consciously aware. And we can look at the evidence that's been provided by everything that you've created in your life thus far and see that there is a call for doing something differently, for going in a different direction, and for changing the process, right? So you cannot approach it in the same way that you have in the past. Now, if you know my story, you know that in the early years of 2000, I started to get downloads of products. And these products were law of attraction products. They were manifestation products. And I was shown every single aspect of them in complete detail. And they were like training wheels for people, really profound, so simple to use, and extremely efficient. And I'll share some of the stories that people have shared with me all these years about how efficient they were. But for now, what I want you to understand is that these training wheels are exactly what we're going to be talking about now. Because rather than jumping into what you've been taught previously, we want to honor ourselves. We want to provide the utmost respect for these universal laws that are hardwired within us that maybe we have forgotten about. And so we want to call them forward. How do we call them forward? Well, like I said, you can't call something new forward if you're doing the same old thing. So I want you actually to put aside everything that you've learned about manifestation up until this point. Yikes. Could be a big ask, I know. And I certainly don't mean to offend anyone. And of course, if you have your own process that works 100% every single time, keep doing it. I can't teach you anything. But if you're like me, a human who doesn't always make the mark, you'll begin to accept that part of being human is that we're constantly learning. And we learn more and more in reality as we open ourselves up to the truths that are waiting to be shown to us. So we learn how to open up, but the truths have been there all along, waiting for us to rediscover them, to remember who we are, and that these principles have been hardwired within us. So this process of creating this new awareness is going to require that you start to treat yourself differently. Do you have manifestations of things that you've created that you want nothing to do with? I know I do. I can raise my hand to that. Or things that I no longer want to be connected to, or things that I recognize missed the mark, and I want to experience something differently. Well, if that's true for you and you continually beat yourself up over it, we have to have a talk. Because everything that you are describing or you've experienced is perfectly natural and normal. We live in a constant state of confusion. Our truth is behind these clouds. But what are those clouds? Well, they're information that has been distributed for the primary purpose of distracting us, for the primary purpose of preventing us from navigating clearly and freely. And so we must learn to navigate around them. So this process means that we must deconstruct things at times. And some of what we experience is because we have deconstructed things in order to try to make sense of them. And this is often where we get messed up. Because if we've gone down the wrong path, there's no making sense of it. It was clearly a reaction from the influence of the ego and the energy and information that came to distract us. So what do I mean by deconstruct? We're talking about deconstructing the energetic pathway. Where did you go awry? It certainly wasn't at the very beginning if you knew clearly what you wanted, right? You set forth with a huge burst of energy and you were clear with your intention, right? Or maybe not so right. I know I've also tried to create things and I was really sort of wishy-washy about what I really wanted. Again, we're not meant to beat ourselves up over this. It happens because a lot of times we venture out without having taken the time or giving ourselves the space to create that clarity. So I want to invite you to start to put some time aside every single day. And let this be a time of just allowing thoughts to come in and go out, allowing yourself to reflect, but go out. You see, we're not meant to dwell anywhere. We're meant to be in constant flow of this energy. So if you are always looking to try to make sense of everything, you're feeding into that ego. The ego has you convinced that you'll never get anywhere unless you totally understand why you did that. Oh my God. I mean, that's monumental. It's impossible to know what all of those influences are. So instead, we simply deconstruct by looking at where the energy went awry. And we begin again. So how do you need to prepare for that? Well, again, there are certain things that you must just accept. Number one, you have every capability of doing this. And whatever mantra or affirmation that you need to create in order to remind yourself of that, do it. Secondly, if you find yourself drifting or running down that path of yesterday and all of the yesterdays before that, you must learn to bring yourself back, because you're feeding the ego and its influences that are hell-bent on distracting you and sending you astray. If you find yourself spouting off about certain perspectives, beliefs that you have about manifestation, I want you to put your hands on your heart for a moment. Give yourself some compassion. Because, as I reminded you just a short time ago, I want you to put aside everything that you've learned up until now. I want you to get so good at accepting yourself right as you are, right where you are, right here and right now, that you can love yourself as the divine being you are. And then we're going to go from there. So take yourself out of the spiral that has you going into that downward, the downward dog, you might say, where you are not seeing your capabilities or your possibilities as being different from what you've experienced in the past. And the other thing is this. I want you to start to put priority on your sleep and make certain that you get lots of rest. We often live in an exhausted state. And again, the bombardment of all of that information is exactly purposeful in doing that. It's to keep you in a state of confusion and exhaustion. And so we are going to put all of that to rest. And so sleep, resting, allowing is going to become your new priority. Allowing yourself to be soft, to be quiet, so that thoughts and ideas can come in and then can go out. You do not need to hold on to them. Okay? And then everything, as we need to understand it, is going to unfold in these sessions. But give this new year the opportunity to be all it can be as you step into all that you can be. This is really giving it your best shot And I want to be there with you, supporting you all the way. Again, we're going to be here every single week, and we will be looking at the different aspects of manifestation, the different aspects of bringing your dreams to life. You deserve it, and you're meant to create it. That's what you're doing here. Did you know that? Yeah. So until next week, begin right here, right now with your preparation. Your preparation that will allow you to go forward and open the floodgates of those energetic frequencies that have the capacity to create whatever you want to experience. All right. So much love to you. And I will see you right back here next week. And we'll be doing exactly the same thing, diving in deep and making it count. Bye-bye now.